Hi, welcome back to Care is Everywhere. It's me, your host, Anthony Brown, aka the Ghetto Practitioner. And man, talk about care being all over the place. In our podcast, we explore people from all over the place. We look for real stories about compassion and second chances and connections and all of that stuff. And, you know, care doesn't come softly. Sometimes care comes out of the blue. And speaking of which, out of the blue, man, let me introduce you to this wonderful individual. He's the creator of the Out of the Blue podcast, a platform where people share life-changing moments that hit without warning and strings. And without further ado, let me welcome in my brother Vernon West. Hey, Vernon, what's happening?
Hey, Anthony, life is happening, Anthony, right now at this very moment. It can't be stopped. It's like a freight train.
It's like a freight train. How life gets lifey. That's one of the things I
Life
like
is
sharing.
life. And I'm not. I have to say that being familiar with the Out of the Blue experience is something that I've grown to understand. It's just life gets lifey, and you have to realize that it's all about how you react. I have to learn from whatever's going on, and usually it'll teach me. I think I'll come to the conclusion that things that happen at all teachers, like no matter what it is. I mean, good things are teachers, bad things are teachers. Sometimes the bad things are the better teachers. To be honest with you, the good things are great, love them, but I don't tend to learn as much from them. I enjoy the crap out of them, but it seems like when a bad thing happens, all of a sudden my learning antennas go up.
Ah, okay. Well, that's really fun. You your person just jumps both feet in, and somehow you learn how to swim while you're in the water. And a lot of us don't even want to put a toe in there because it's wet. And it's really fascinating because tell let's talk about out of the blue. What made you come up with that podcast?
Okay, I had been hit with a cancer diagnosis for leukemia, and it was out of the blue. I mean, I was a perfectly healthy human being. I had nothing, no, I'd never been to the hospital really. It just was, except when I was a kid and had my tonsils out, nothing like ever really, no health problems. I was a very healthy guy. I was a runner. I'm a musician. Was a musician I have been a musician all my life since I was a little kid. So I played on stages and I was very athletic as a human being. So I mean, I don't know how this happened, but it did. And when it happened, that threw me into this world where everything, the foundation of my life, which I thought was so solid, was gone. And I was like, I had a sense of vertigo, really. I was like all hanging in space, all of a sudden now fighting for my life against this thing called leukemia. I'd only read about it. I'd not, I knew someone who died from it, of course. I knew a couple of people who died from it, and it took them quick. So when they told me, Vernon, you have leukemia, a matter of fact, when the day that happened, I had gone, I had gone to the doctor on a Thursday because my wife and I were going on a vacation for a weekend vacation down Cape Cod. And that was the most I'd ever take off. I was always working 24/7 between music and entertainment of every kind I was doing. So I was all looking forward to this vacation. And but I had a cough and I was running a slight fever, like 99. Nothing, I was really not even worried about it. And she said, well, you go to the doctor, maybe he'll give you some antibiotics. When you go on a vacation, you can get better. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. So I went. The next day, packing the car to go down on our little vacation, and there's about 20 missed calls on my phone. And I'm saying, this is unusual. I don't ever call back somebody who doesn't identify themselves, but there was 20 of them from the same number. So I called it back, and it was my doctor on his personal phone saying, Vernon, where are you? I told him I was home, getting ready to go on vacation. Okay, good. You got to get right into the emergency ward and get a full blood workup. I said, wait a minute, doctor, why? I'm going on vacation for a couple of days. Can I go Monday? He said, nope. you get right in there right now. That's why. He says, because you explained I had very high white blood cells, very low red. He
Mm.
says, your reds are so low, I'm surprised you're not in a ditch somewhere. I said, well, okay, I'll go right in. And when I went in, they took the blood and everything, and I'm sitting there waiting. And all of a sudden, a herd of nurses come around me and they start hooking me up to machines. I'm going, what's going on? And they go, oh, the doctor will be here in a minute. And then they hook me all up. I'm going, geez. And then this doctor comes over and he looked about 14. You think Doogie Howser. I don't know if you ever watched that show. This kid, this guy looked young. And he comes over and he folds his little arms over his plaid shirt. And he goes, you, Mr. West, are what we call an interesting case. And I went, holy shit.
Mm.
This is not the news I want to hear. I
Mm.
want to be as boring as possible to these doctors. But he said that. The next thing I know, he tells me, you have leukemia. And I went,
Mm.
oh, like my world just flew out from underneath me. And I spent the next um, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in hospital, locked in like a room with like a bubble. No one comes in without fully garbed in protection, and
Right.
getting through all kinds of tests to find out what the treatment plan was going to be. Eventually found out there was going to be a chemo pill with steroids and I could go home.
Mm.
Well, that was really the best of all possibilities. So I was quite grateful. And he said the reason was because I was in good physical shape, and I was not the equivalent to my calendar age was at the time I was like 60, 62. And he said you have a much more useful body because you've been in good shape, you're healthy. I said that why you makes you it makes you able to get this pill instead of coming in for full IV chemo, and which is basically not very good and doesn't work really well, and people don't survive it. And
Mhm.
so I got home, took the chemo pill, and then you got chemotherapeutic remission. And then I had to get a bone marrow transplant. The next thing
Mm.
I knew, we had to find a donor, and nobody in my family was 100% match. And you have to have 100% match for the for the for the transplant to work. And if it doesn't work, that's it. It's curtains. So the last minute, really the 11th hour before they were going to say, forget it, some guy walked into a clinic in Poland, and he's a 26-year-old man who's now probably 32, 31. He was a 100% match,
Hmm.
and I don't know how that worked. Maybe my grandfather was great grandfather was had some kids in Poland. I mean, I have Italian uh, ancestors, and they lived in northern Italy. It's very I don't know. I mean, really don't know. But all I know
Out
is
of the
this:
blue.
it was out of the blue. So I became a candidate. I went in for the transplant, got the transplant, and then everything was going great. And then one day, at about 9 or 10 months after the transplant, I got an infection. I got like an infection, which is like fever, and it's like anything, like a virus. Like if
Yeah.
someone gets a virus, that's an infection. And I got one, and I went to and ended. I was spending 3 weeks at a time in the hospital during this period because it was
One.
not fun. And so I went in for another 3 weeks as they administered antibiotics, and because when you get a transplant, you virtually have no immune system.
Right. Right.
And that's why an infection is deadly. So when I went in there, they were trying to, beat down the infection. They eventually did. And I was released. And I went home. And I was going to a friend's house to meditate. A friend of mine who's a really he's an actual guru. He went to India. He has people to come and meditate with him all the time. And he was my my teacher of meditation. And I would go over his house and he'd meditate with me. And
Yeah.
I had just gotten there, and I just finished meditating, and I went downstairs and I got a phone call. It's my doctor. He says, Vernon, you're in full relapse. And what do you mean? He says, well, the leukemia is back. Oh God, that's not good. What does that mean? He says, well, it's not good. You got to get in here tomorrow and we're going to figure something out. but you now switch to another doctor. I now go to the leukemia doctor. I was using the transplant doctor for a while there. And then I went back and he was like, all the medicines that we use to get you in chemotherapeutic remission have all become immune. Your leukemia developed an immunity to all the medicines that we use. That's how diabolical that particular kind of cancer is. It
Mm.
fights for its life to kill you. It's that
Wow.
scary as shit. And then
Mm.
I was like, oh my gosh, all right. So he says, nothing we have available to us will work. We're going to try one thing. He says, you're going to come take your suitcase in Friday. They're going to come in for a 24 hours a day, a whole month of chemo, IV chemo, which is the old school method that they treat leukemia with. And I might add, that is not very successful. It's very low rate of success. And it's like
Okay, but it's better than nothing, though, right?
yeah, well, I was ready to do it. I went
Yeah.
home and I was driving home and I was really terrified. And I was thinking, what can I do? What have I not done? Well, I'm a member of the 12-step program, I don't know if I've told you that, but I do since I was like, for 35 years, to this date, I've been a member of 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't care. I'll out myself.
Okay.
Because and I love the 12 steps. The 12 steps are a very methodical way to develop a connection to my higher power. And it worked that way for me. And it helped me with sobriety. And I was thinking, well, maybe it'll help me with this, but I didn't know how that was going to happen. So I
Mm.
remembered something. I had worked for the Christian Science Monitor for like 8 years. I loved the newspaper because it was a newspaper that preached the pure journalism. In other words, it wasn't no spin zone. Like it wasn't right wing, it wasn't left wing. It just tried to tell the middle of the road truth. So I thought I supported that. And when I was there, it was one of my side jobs because I was a musician still. I played a lot. And one of the first times I got a full time job was that job. And I was in there, I got interested in this whole thing that they were practicing because everybody there was Christian Scientists. And I thought, well, I looked at it, I said, it's kind of interesting because what they did with Christian Science was they used the Bible and the truths that are in the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament, whatever, and they apply that to their life. And that would help them. And they would get demonstrations. They called them demonstrations, not healings or not miracles. Miracles implied the absence of God's law in their thinking, but
Okay.
demonstrations applied the application of God's law. And so since God's law is everything to a Christian Scientist view, I thought, this is a lot like AA. This is a lot like what I learned in the 12 steps. So I was very interested in it. And I took a class there from somebody that taught me how to be a healer if I wanted to use it. And I actually took that class and I could put a C and an S after my name now and try to be a Christian Science healer because I learned it. But I didn't do that. But I come home, I'm thinking, that's the one thing I didn't try. I didn't try that. And I remember this young woman who went to the same class as me. She also was a person that was like me, I didn't ascribe to the dogma of the religion
Mm.
because they preach this thing where there's no doctors. Do not use doctors, like as if doctors are some sort of evil thing. And I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, if you can't get your heat demonstration by prayer, well, then you should go to a freaking doctor. I mean, life is precious, I just didn't feel that was a smart way to do things. And that's my opinion. Not
Okay.
no
Okay.
shade on people who live that life, because God bless them. But anyway, I called this woman Catalina, and she was from Bulgaria. Her father was the poet laureate of Bulgaria, and she's a very smart young woman. And she had the same attitude about. She went to the same class as me, and she had the same feeling about it too. She felt like, use a doctor. There's nothing wrong with doctors. God made them
Right.
too. God
Yeah.
made doctors, and they're there, to help. So I love the doctors. So anyway, I went and so I called her up. I said, geez, Catalina, what do you think? He goes, all right, let's try what we learned. So let's think about it. He says, well, according to the Bible, right? Jesus died on the cross, right? And they stuck knives in him and a knife in his thigh and they nails, and he bled out. And then he put him in a tomb, and 3 days later, there he is. Okay, we kind of accept that as truth, right? Do you? I said, yeah, I kind of do. I do. I have to admit, I do. And not that I don't apologize for that. Just admit it. I think it's true. And what she said was, Vernon, ever since I've known you, you've been a very spirited person. You love your family. You love your music. You're just really spirited. People around you feel it. So I don't think this is going to take you, this disease of the blood, because blood isn't your life. Spirit, that's your life. And that's what raised the dude we know as Jesus from the dead. He didn't all of a sudden get all his blood back. And if you read the Bible, he had the wounds in his hands and Thomas was putting his fingers in them. They weren't gushing. So obviously he wasn't bleeding, right? So that's a lot of truth to that as far as the scriptures are concerned. So I said, all right, that makes a lot of sense. Okay. She said, I don't see this taking you because your spirit is my life, not blood. All right, Catalina, thank you. That's very nice. Well, cool. I hung up the phone. I did not hear any choirs of angels, and there was no lightning. There was no beautiful sunrise, and I didn't know. Anthony, you had an experience that I never forgot. You told me about it. I didn't get that experience where everything took on this beautiful light that I was seeing it through these eyes of spirit.
Wow.
I love your story about that, and I relate to that, but I didn't get that. All I did get was, okay, I feel a little better. I mean, I just felt a little less terrified, put it that way.
Okay.
And then I went to bed. Next morning, I get a call from my doctor. Now, this is now Wednesday. He says, Vernon, I was up all night last night, and I did some research, and they have a new medicine that I think can get around the morphs of your leukemia and will work. Oh, he said, so you don't have to bring your suitcase on Friday. We're going to try this medicine. I'm going to order it right now. It's going to come by FedEx to you tomorrow. You take the pill as soon as it comes, but you have to take one every 24 hours. So the time you see me on Thursday, you will not have taken a second pill. And don't worry, it takes 5 to 7 days or even 9 days for that pill to even work. So we're not even going to expect to see any results. I said, okay, doc. Great. And I thought, well, that must have been what was the result of the prayer. I actually thought that was it. I said,
Okay.
That must be what, worked, great, awesome. So I was excited about getting this new medicine. And then it came the next day. I took it at 2:00. And then the next morning I go in to see him and they take all vials of blood for the test they do for me. And then they're reading, these guys looking at the computer, the doctor, and he looks over at me and goes, hey, Vern, how you doing today? I says, oh, pretty good. He says, well, you look pretty good today, not for nothing. No, what are you doing? I says, well, I called my friend and prayed. Yes. He goes, okay, but you're going to take the medicine, right? Because he knew I worked for the Christian Science Monitor. So he figured, what does that mean? He's not going to go Christian Science on me. I said, no, doc, I'm going to take the medicine. Don't worry. He said, good. And then he goes back to the computer. He's looking. All of a sudden, his eyes bug out. And he looks over me and goes, what did you say you were doing? I said, I was doing this thing with this Christian. Well, whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. I said, why? He says, because I had 87% leukemic blasts in my blood. And I had 13 more percent, and I was going into hospice. And he said, your blasts went down to 42%. And there's no way that pill did that. No way. So keep doing it. I'll see you tomorrow. I come in the next day. He's in there with his nurse practitioner, which you are, Anthony.
Yes.
And they sit there and they go, we have a bet. We think it went down to 21%. And I said, well, my wife and I think it's even lower. Honestly, we do. And he goes, well, we'll see. Well, lo and behold, it went down to 1%. And the next day, which for all those listeners out there was the third day, no lies. This is it's my truth. I'm sticking with it. This is the real thing that happened. On the third day I went in, they took my blood. They're getting ready to give me an infusion of platelets or something. And they come back and they said, the leukemia is 0%. And it never came back, ever.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
that was out of the blue for me. And after that happened, I still had to deal with stuff because, and unfortunately, the medicine, I kept taking it. And it gave me the medicine itself, we had to discontinue it because in 3 months of taking that medicine, it gave me pancreatitis, which is, I don't know if you know and anybody knows, it's the most painful condition I can imagine. I can't even imagine anything in this life that could be more painful. But it
Yeah.
was off the chart pain. And I was like going through that. And during that period, I was like saying, God, why are you doing this to me? Why? And I mean, I couldn't understand this pain. It was ridiculous. But I was at that point now. I was talking to God all the time. So I was saying this to God, and all of a sudden I got this vision of me being like hanging there on a cross, and I saw out of the eyes of the man on the cross, and I saw all the people surrounding him. Some of them were making fun of me, and some of them were spitting at me, and some were crying. People that love me, and I was like, and I looked out at them, and all of a sudden I understood him when he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And suddenly that dawned on me that it was that forgiveness that released him from whatever their things that were happening to him. It was almost the same way that when I was released from the bondage of, say, leukemia, by knowing that I was spirit, not my life was spirit driven, not material driven, blood
Mm.
driven. And it was that. And when I thought that, then I started to get better from the pancreatitis. And then eventually more stuff happened. That medication actually gave me a tumor in my brain, and that tumor caused me to lose my right leg as far as it became numb. The tumor appeared over my motor functions of my right side, so my right leg and right arm became limp and useless. But they're back. I mean, that came back eventually, but that put me in the hospital for 9 consecutive months. And
Wow.
in that period, it's a long way to get to this story, but
Yeah.
when I was in the hospital at that time, somewhere about the 6th month, after having been put on full life support, after having had some crazy experiences, um, I knew I was going to be better. I might not have my right leg back yet, but my right arm was back, and my leg was getting slowly better. But I knew I was I was going to be better now. I was going to get home, and I was not going to have beat the cancer, and I was going to live. And I started feeling this real sense of gratitude, and that's where the 12 steps come in. Because during that period, I found myself being of service, which is one of the 12 steps, is to be of service, to help others. And that helps you get out of yourself, really. And I was
Mm.
finding myself doing that for the people in the hospital. Like they would come in and I would find ways to help them. And it got to the point that they would come back in when they weren't supposed to see me and check in and tell me how they're doing. So because I was always want to know about how they were doing. And it helped
Yeah.
me to get out of myself to help another. And I was doing that constantly. And then right about 2 months before I went home, although I didn't know I was going home, but 2 months before they actually did go home, I got an email from Spotify saying, "Did you want to start a podcast? Because if you do, we'll send you this software and even a mic." I don't know why they picked me to send that to, but they did. And I said, "Yeah, I would." And they sent me the stuff. And then the hospital, I'm thinking, what do I want to call it? And I thought, I want to call it Out of the Blue. It came as an inspiration, out of the blue, obviously. And I said, what are you going to do with it? The whole point of it, I thought, was to help give people who are going through out of the blue experiences like I did a voice so that they can share their experience, strength, and hope, and find a way in their own finding a way forward. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. And at first, I just thought of I'm going to go find people in the ward, try to interview people. And at the time, we're not allowed to talk to anybody because of the pandemic. So I really couldn't do that. So my first guest came to me out of the blue, for a good old friend of mine who's also a member of the program, and he loved the idea of what I was doing, and he found me sent me somebody who was in show business, a woman by the name of Wendy Liebman. She's a comedian, and he said she's perfect for it. She's got that exact kind of experience she could share. And
Hmm.
yeah, that was my first guest for Out of the Blue. And then from there on, it just developed its own. I say that often that God is my booking agent. Everybody comes to me out of the blue. Everybody comes to me out of the blue. I mean, and there's very few people that come to me that I don't think I can do, because sometimes there are people that maybe want to come to promote their music or a book, but they don't really have a story.
Hmm.
I'm not sure that's right for what we do. But I mean, I usually find something that's right, because I don't know anybody that hasn't had some kind of out of the blue experience. Really, everybody's had it, you know. So that's why I started out doing. That's the whole story, and I'm sticking to it. There's much more. There are a few more. There are a few more. There's my
Oh,
details that I spared you, but certainly that's the story.
oh, that was perfect, and I appreciate that. I'm gonna unpack some of this stuff because it's fascinating. I know I've been on your show, and thank you very much. I've been, just for you viewers who don't know, I've been on Vernon's show several times, and I reached out to him, and when he said out of the blue, I'm like, wow. And you guys out there know what my journey is, what my journey is all about. But what you don't know, that you're going to get today, because Vernon just inspired me. Uh, and thank you. I appreciate your honesty and your candidness, Vernon. Especially when you start talking about leukemia and all the different treatments and your thoughts, and it just hit you on vacation. I just recently disclosed, actually it's in the book, but not to the public on my platform, that I have stage 2 interstitial colon cancer. Last year I got diagnosed with it. Yeah. When they first told me that, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. You know, because being a nurse and being in the healthcare field, when normally a patient hears that C word, first thing they think is instant death. you know? And that's what I thought and all of that stuff. And then I went through the normal emotional changes that I'm sure you went through. It's like, why me? My life is going on great. It's like, all right, well, then let's just give it up. What the heck? And then you go through all the hospital visits. And, you know, I, you had leukemia. That's in your blood. It's not like you can just remove the blood. You can't. I was fortunate. They did surgery, remove part of my colon, and I went on chemo for a couple months. And in order for me to even deal with my colon cancer, was I gave my cancer a name. I called it Seymour.
Seymour.
Seymour. Yeah, Seymour of the Cecum. And and it was a year ago from today. I was on chemo. And it's definitely something to walk through, and I'm pretty sure those listening that have had this experience can relate to the emotional heaviness that something like this carries. And we're grasping at straws, and you know the title of your show, Out of the Blue, is perfect, because all the stuff here, you had to get bone marrow transplant at the 11th hour, out of the blue.
Yep.
Somebody not even in the United States pop up, and you're going through all of this stuff, and you're using the knowledge you got. And congratulations on the 35 years in the program.
Thank you.
People who have watched my show knows that I'm in the program. I support it. I know anonymity at the level of press, radio, film, but I reveal my own said it, anonymity, and
Anonymity.
I'm not ashamed of it to save my life. And the whole Christian Science thing. Everybody believes what they want to believe, but what I do know for a fact, for me, that God touches us in a unique and personal way, in which people may not understand how I had my experience, but they understand how they have theirs. It's like you understand how you have yours, you know. And I can imagine when you heard that your levels went down,
Yeah. Something.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so having said all, and then again, here you go, you have Spotify contact you and you get a free mic just out of the blue, you know?
Came out of the
Yeah,
blue. Yep.
all of that stuff. And that's
But
I cannot find a proper adjective. I just think it's groovy.
I just think that what I'm learning is that you've got to follow those things. Like I think they say, follow the leadings of truth. It's something that
Mm.
to me that out of the blue stuff. If honesty is so important because I learned that you have to be 100% honest with yourself. You can't be 99% because that 1%, that means you're not honest. That means that 1% you're not being real. But if you get
Ah.
100% honest with yourself, you will see that even those things that seem so terrible, getting leukemia, they can teach you something very valuable. And I think what happened to me from leukemia is almost like I can all say that I can honestly say that I know God is you can't my higher power is always listening. So I don't know why I'm going to say this, even though I say it with knocking on wood, and please don't listen too much. But like I'm almost grateful that it happened
Mm.
because the changes that it produced in my life just cannot be more grateful for. It made me so much like I don't know, it made me so aware of what my purpose is on the earth. It really is to bring people together. I like connections. I like connecting with people, and this my podcast has brought me together with you here today. I met you because of the podcast. I mean, the
Mhm.
people that have come into my life because of this podcast I've enriched my life so much that I am just blown away, and
Mm.
I continue to learn. Now, you know, I said that life at the beginning. I was telling you, life is getting lifey. Well, I'm
Mhm.
cruising along, and things are going well in many places in my life. But now I found out that um, I have to go in for a PET scan tomorrow, which means they're going to be looking for some cancer in my body because of something that was found in one of the blood tests I just gave to my PCP about a month ago. And so,
Mhm.
I have to admit that I do not, I'm not entirely happy about that. I wouldn't say that I'm going there, skipping there, woohoo, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid, but I am a little. I am a little maybe I'm a little afraid because I mean you don't know it until you know. I mean they'll do the PET scan and they'll find out whatever they find out. So right now in that period, that moment before they do any tests, so nothing's nothing. If it's not something, then what I can't worry about something that doesn't exist yet. But
Right.
I'll find out soon enough, and I think that I have to take some comfort in the fact that whatever it was that was there for me to um, beat leukemia, survive leukemia, is still with me. I mean, I don't believe that kind of thing is a one and done thing. It's kind of funny to say that. Would something of that nature be one and done? Because it changed my life. It changed my life fundamentally to the point where I look at life so different now. Even this life getting lifey moment of going in to find out what happens after this PET scan. I mean, I'm just going to leave it in the hands of my higher power, God, as I come to understand it, and that I'll deal with it accordingly. And there's
Mhm.
good doctors out there, and there's also a very powerful thing called, I think, for lack of, there's no better term that I can think of yet. Higher power, God. I don't know. It seems to me there is an infinite power of some kind. I think it's love. Love is a good word for it, but
Mhm.
it's certainly hard to describe. I think it's something of, we're human, right? And we like to think of God as a human, but I don't know. Maybe God isn't a human. He's just more than we can imagine as a human. But part of what we say, they say we're in the Bible, we're created in His image and likeness. Now, does that mean God looks like us with hands, feet, eyes, ears? Oh, does it? mean that the image of our soul, which is something to do with the way we love, the way we care, the way our heart works. I mean,
Ugh.
that might be the image that we is closer to what we are reflecting. And it's interesting. I got to say, I wrote a song recently about "Send Me an Angel," and it's like I'm a broken angel, right, in the song, and I feel like that it was a song I wrote recalling an experience I had in the hospital. When I was in the hospital, I was seeing every time I turned around, I look and the clock would say 111 or 1111. And I was seeing this all the time. I was saying, what does that mean? And I Googled it and they said, well, that means there's an angel and talking to you.
Mm.
And I said, well, okay. So then the next time it happened, it's like it was 1 in the morning, actually, 1:11. And I went, okay, if there's an angel here, show me. Let me see you.
Oh, be careful what you ask
You
for.
better believe it. That's what happened. Because what happened was I saw something. And what
Hmm.
I saw was not a human. It was like a geometric design, like a snowflake, but more intricate.
Hmm.
But it was living. And I could feel nothing but this powerful love coming from it. And
Ugh.
it was basically saying to me, don't worry. Don't worry. We got you. And I was like, holy
Uh-huh.
crap. I'm getting chills thinking about it because it really did happen. I don't know how else to explain it. There's just might make me sound like I'm Looney Tunes, but I don't really, what can I say? Hey, this is what it is. I might be loony.
Well, I think everybody on this planet has the opportunity to be loony, and that's okay. Because like I said before, and I'm a firm believer, and there's no way on this planet anybody could convince me otherwise. I know what I experienced, I know what I've seen, and I know what I lived.
Same here.
Period. And the beauty of all of this is we're given, for whatever reason, platforms to share this information with other people. Maybe we're supposed to be carrying a message. I think in the Bible it says, those with ears, let them hear, you know? And maybe this is just part of some grand design that our minds are limited of what we see, but our souls and our spirit is expansive. And I come to believe that, like you said, every little incident, and I believe that every little incident I encounter, whether it's, going through being homeless or doing drugs or going to jail or all of that stuff, was all designed for me to be here at this moment, to have this conversation, to say, Vernon, I appreciate who you are. And yes, you're not crazy. And yes, everything that you say resonates, because it's really important that we get out of all of this. What if it isn't? And get more into, well, what if it is? Because there's power in being open. And as you said, there's a purpose and there's a reason. All these little incidences led up to something. But I think if we were given the complete truth of everything, our we couldn't handle
My
it.
head would explode, I think.
Our heads would explode. And it's really fascinating because here you said was, admittingly 35 years of sobriety. I got 26 years of sobriety. So we're far past the point of having flashbacks. Okay, this is the real deal. And it's great that you're comfortable with sharing your truth with my viewers. And I'm just I some there's very few times I get speechless, and that's okay. Because sometimes people say, Anthony, why don't you just shut up? It's like, no, it's because I get overwhelmed with gratitude that I get the opportunity of sharing space with individuals with such stories. Because I never knew that about you, and I'm glad I had the privilege of being here with Vernon sharing, and going through this time when life is lifey,
Yeah.
you know, and because life gets lifey for all of us out there. Don't think you're gonna go through life unscathed. That's just not the way it
No,
happens.
that's so true. Yep.
You know, and so let me because we're getting close to to wrap it up, let me tap into that creative musician that you are. And you said you wrote a song about your
I did.
experience. Okay. First of all, what tell me a little bit about the music creativity that you possess.
Um, well, all my music over the years. I mean, I was professionally playing on big stages when I was 17. It's all on the YouTube channel, the West Boys. It's tracks my whole career, and but lately I've been writing a whole bunch of new songs that have just come out of me. Um, all of a sudden, really, about a couple of months ago, I just been writing a lot of songs and writing. I don't know, something happened to me mentally or physically. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to a great meeting every day. A lot of good people with sobriety and wisdom, and it's just stimulating me to do that. I mean, and I find that to be a certain evidence of my own healing because I played music my entire life. And when this thing happened with leukemia and I was locked in a hospital, I didn't play for that amount of years. I wasn't playing music. And
Mm.
it was like becoming a memory. And and all of a sudden, recently, I guess I've been thawed out enough from the experiences that I'm starting to remember that I am a musician. That's my language. It's my love language, I guess you might say. So I will send you that song I wrote about broken angels.
Oh, I would love it. I would love
Yeah,
it.
I'll send it to
And also, um, I'm probably gonna. I'll ask you now, but I'll say it again. Whatever song you send me, would I have permission to use it for or put it on anything? Like if I did a movie or something, could I use it as a theme song or?
you know it, Anthony. Let me know. I can get you, I can definitely I have lots of songs to pick from. We could find the perfect song for you if that isn't it.
Okay, great, because I see Solemn's back at the seat. I'm gonna throw this in his ear for. It'd be nice if we had some of Vernon's music as an intro. But anyway, but it's great. You're a musician. You've been doing it all your life. And you went through all of this stuff. Somehow got put on the back burner, but then suddenly, out of the blue, it comes back that this is who I am.
Yeah, you know the last
And
thing I
then
did when if you go to the West Boys website, you will see there's a period that I became the VW bus band. That's when I formed a group with my daughter, my sons, my daughters, and my son. We played music together, and we played a bunch of songs that I had written, and some even a few that they had written or we collaborated with. And we actually played some shows with the VW bus band because we thought of it. I thought it was kind of I get what we always say at the show. We did two shows. We didn't do too many, but at the show I would say, "All right, everybody, get on the bus." So
huh, that
we play our music, and I play kind of classic rock. My son plays sort of like uh what's that guy name? Oh, I forget his name. John Mayer's kind of music. My daughter plays a
okay.
kind of indie jazzy music, and they different styles, but we played them all together, and it was so much fun. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had performing, and I played on huge stages with my band Sass. That's what I was called, Sass. And at the time, I was always wondering about my name. I thought, am I really Sass? I mean, I wasn't sure if that was really me, but it stuck. It was something that became very popular at the time. And I think I always thought of it as being, we were sassing the status quo. You know, we were saying that
Mm.
this, our music was always considered uplifting. Um, I mean, somebody called it power pop, and one writer called it. And and we had a hit record. We were pretty popular and back in the day. And if you go on West Boys, you'll see right through the whole career, even some TV shows they did back then. Of course, they have a lot more hair, but that's okay.
Oh.
Hair isn't everything, although you do miss it.
Yeah, I can't speak on that, and because somebody prior to the show mentioned my eyebrows are getting kind of gray, but hey, you know what? It comes with wisdom. But anyway, we're gonna
Yeah, you
wrap
go.
it
I
up.
love it.
Vernon Sass West, tell us how can we get a hold of you? How can we hear your stuff? Give us some contact information.
Well, you just go on YouTube and put in West Boys and look for the logo that has like a little, it's an orange, like sunset rise, and there's a cityscape, and it says West Boys over it. That would be the YouTube channel that has about, I don't know, it tracks all the videos I've made in my career from when I was 17 to the last one I made that's on there, I made right before was got my transplant. We did a show called for my brother and people wanted to have a fundraiser, and we played it. And that show we played some brand new music that's also represented on the website, on the YouTube channel, and some of the live versions of it as well as the studio versions. But when we do studio versions now, if you look at the VW Bus Band, which I'm really proud of that stuff, some of that music is some of my favorite music. But if you look at
Can you say that website again? I like the way it
West
sounds.
Boys, W-E,
Okay, and the other word?
that's all West Boys. Everything
Okay,
everything's under the West Boys YouTube channel.
that's what we'll find the
You'll find the
VW bus
VW,
band.
you'll find that in that group, all those songs. There's at least, I don't know, I think the last count, I thought it was like 60 or 70 separate videos of songs. I have about 250 songs that are on Spotify that are on either you could find them by searching any one of those names. You could search West Boys, you could search Sass to West. That because we put a CD out called Sass to West, and that
Okay.
became pretty popular on the streaming services like Apple Music, Spotify, and then but so we all that's the audio versions. When you go to YouTube, you're seeing all the
Okay.
videos, and it covers a lot of good stuff. I mean, some of that stuff on the videos, I'm very proud of. I do love a lot of the stuff we did, and I'm also embarrassed by a few things too. But that's part of life, you know.
Yep, part of life. And then how do we get a hold of the Out of the Blue
Out of
podcast?
the Blue podcast is available. Just go to you can find us on any platform. You just got to put in out of the blue hyphen the podcast.org. Or just if you put that in any one of the streaming services, you'll find us. Or you can just go to our website, which is www.outofthebluehiphen-thepodcast.org, and then you can go there and you can hear uh, Anthony's episodes right there. You just click the words "listen now," start listening, and you could. Anthony's right up there, and Anthony's going to be in season 2 coming very soon because we got a part 2 of our conversation with you, which was another amazing time we had with you. We really, obviously, we stand with you with your mission. Absolutely.
And, and I'm right by your side. Folks, this is great. Um, thank you very much, Vernon Says West. I appreciate that. And folks, thank you for tuning in again to Care is Everywhere. Don't forget to just look for us on YouTube. Don't forget look up Vernon on West Boys. Don't forget just come to us and hear the different insights and stories and educational material. We got it all because wherever there's needed, we want care to be everywhere. And so until the next time, we'll see you later. Thank you for tuning in.